Costs associated with a VA loan, both recurring and one-time expenses. Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me today on the show. I am Jeff the Mortgage Pro, and today we're looking at one of my favorite home loans. I think I say this every single time we talk about VA loans. That's what we're talking about. My favorite loan to do, and the reason being is that I get a chance to give back to people who have served or are serving our country. And again, I didn't have a chance to serve in the military, but this is my way of giving back to that particular community. So I love these loans. Today, what we're looking at are the expenses associated with getting a VA loan. So we're going to look at one-time expenses, and then we're going to look at recurring expenses going forward. So let's go through the list. If you see me looking down on this show today, I've got my notes here in front of me, so I need to refer to those because I have a lot of different expenses to chat with you about. So the first one is a VA funding fee. This is a mandatory fee that you have to pay unless you're eligible to be excluded. This is the user fee to utilize the VA home loan. Some borrowers may be exempt from this depending on your status, and your lender, hopefully me, will be able to tell you whether or not you're exempt or not. And you may already know that anyway. The second one-time expense is an appraisal fee, and this is a mandatory expense that we have during a transaction. This is the fee, or this is what the lender uses to determine the value of the property. It's an independent third party that goes out called an appraiser, and they're going to look at the property and determine if it's eligible for a VA loan or not. And they're going to look at all sorts of different stuff. They're going to tell us what the value of that property is compared to what your purchase price is. The next one-time expense is closing costs. These are mandatory. You're going to have things, but not limited to taxes, transfer fees, origination fees, and any other customary costs. The seller, the lender, or any party can pay for the fees on your behalf, though, with some of these different types of closing costs that you're going to incur. And in the list of the other closing costs that we're going to give you here, the other one-time costs, the seller, the lender, or any other party could pay for those fees as well. Okay, the next thing is your down payment. This is optional on a VA loan. If you are eligible and you have your full eligibility, you're able to get a 100% financing. And again, these are based on your several different factors to be able to qualify for that loan. You still have to be able to afford the monthly payment, but a down payment is actually not required on a VA loan. 100% financing is the norm. That's what I see most often. If you want to put a down payment to lower your monthly principal and interest on your payment, you absolutely can do that, but it is not mandatory. Down payment is one of those things that is optional. The next one-time expense or discount points. These are things, or these are costs associated with buying down an interest rate to get even lower than what the market rate is on a particular loan. Do you need to pay this? Absolutely not. Do some people like to pay this? Absolutely they do. And especially in certain types of markets, kind of like the one that we're in right now, the seller can actually pay for this for you. But again, the seller, the lender, or any other interested party can help you pay down or buy down the rate with discount points. Earnest money deposit. This is optional, but it's always recommended. And this is money you put into an escrow account showing that the seller, that you are serious about buying the property. Now, because a VA loan has a 100% financing, this fee that you put into escrow as an earnest money deposit could actually go towards closing costs. And if you don't actually have any closing costs because other people are paying for it for you, you'll get refunded this money at closing. The next one is a home inspection. This is optional. You want to learn more about what you're buying when you buy a home. So oftentimes you would go out and get a home inspection. Sometimes they're already done for you by the home seller. A lot of times they'll have that all ready to go for you, and other times they're not. But in most instances, I would always recommend getting a home inspection so that you know what the property entails, you know, the insides and things that you can't see, because a licensed inspector is going to go out, look at your property, and find things that may or may not be wrong with your property. Okay. The next one is a termite inspection. This is optional in some states and mandatory in others. And this is similar to the home inspection, where a termite inspection is going to look for, number one, termites, but it's also going to look at things like rotten wood or damage because of water. And those things will come up in a termite inspection, and you want to know about those because they could affect the structure of your property, and you never know what's going to happen. So termite inspection, optional, but recommended in most places. And then if it's mandatory in other places, then you got to make sure you go out there and do that termite inspection. Lender's title insurance is the next one. This is a mandatory fee. This is to ensure that lenders protect themselves against any legal claims against the home. A lender doesn't want to get in trouble because they lent you money and something was wrong on the property when they lent you money that they didn't know about. So lender's title insurance is mandatory. And then the last of our one-time expenses that we have is owner's title insurance. And owner's title insurance is optional, but it's usually highly recommended. Oftentimes, title and escrow companies, when you're closing on a transaction, will give you discounts on each of those if you purchase them together. And then if you don't purchase them together, the lender's title insurance gets to be more expensive. So owner's title insurance, what that does is it protects you if someone has a claim against the home before you actually purchased it, such as home repairs that weren't paid off when the seller actually sold the home. So you may not even own the home, and if you don't have owner's title insurance, you could be liable for any extra costs that were associated before the home actually sold, even when it was in your name, if you don't have owner's title insurance. So kind of important to have. Okay, so those are your one-time expenses that you're going to pay. As you know, most of those are associated with purchasing the property. And then going forward, you have recurring expenses, things you need to pay every single month when you have a VA loan. And the first one, and hopefully the most obvious one, is your mortgage payment. And this is going to include principal on the loan, interest on the loan, and a portion of your homeowner's insurance and a portion of your property taxes. And remember that VA loans don't have any mortgage insurance associated with them because you have a funding fee that takes the place of that. So there is no mortgage insurance. So principal, interest, taxes, and insurance are things that are recurring expenses. These are usually made on the 1st of the month is when they're due, and they're not late until the 15th of the month. So pay them early. The next recurring expense is homeowner's insurance. This is required on all mortgages. So regardless of whether you have a VA loan or not, you're still going to have to pay something like this. And a homeowner's insurance that just protects the owner or protects the property owner in case of hazard. So it's also called hazard insurance. So if you had a fire, the homeowner's insurance would help cover the damages to be able to pay you back so that you could rebuild your property. Other recurring expenses are utilities and maintenance. As an example, utilities like water, electricity, gas, those things you usually need to pay on a monthly or a bi-monthly basis for the most part. And then maintenance such as heating, cooling system replacement, water heaters, laundry machines, refrigerators, ovens, etc., etc., etc. Those things all are appliances you may have. They do have a shelf life, so at some point they're going to expire, and you're going to need to replace those. So make sure that you budget for those when you're putting together your monthly budgets. And then other recurring expenses are property taxes. These things are, I don't think I've ever heard of a property that doesn't have property taxes. Every state in the country has them, and it's something you just got to pay to be able to own a property. So even if you have no mortgage on the property, you still have to pay property taxes. And then the last one, homeowners association fees. If these are required, depending on the type of home you built or you bought and where it was bought. If these are required, these go to the upkeep of the property and other services provided by the association, such as groundkeeping, swimming pools, security, things of that nature. And those aren't always required, only if you have a homeowners association. Those are something that's going to be a recurring expense that you have to pay over and over again. Okay, so that's it for the list. I hope that this was a comprehensive overview of the different costs that are associated with a VA loan for you. If you have any questions about a VA loan, please make sure to reach out to me, Jeff the Mortgage Pro. You can always drop a comment down below and help me do better on these videos. And if you are getting a VA loan for a purchase, or if you're doing a VA loan refinance, please make sure that you reach out to me specifically because I would love to help you. Have a great day. Chat with you soon.